All right, everybody. Next up on the show, I'm joined by the guy I always go to talk all things Crimson Tide. That is Tony Tsoukalas, managing editor for Tide Illustrated, part of Rivals.com. And Tony, I appreciate you taking the time. Come on the show. It's a big week. A-Day's coming up on us this Saturday.
Yeah, it's a big week. I'm glad to be back on the show.
I'm glad to have you on. Glad to have you on. People been telling me I've been neglecting the Tide here on the show lately. I said, well, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. We'll get to Alabama. Hold your horses. But oh man, it's going into A-Day, but just with spring so far, and really for you going into spring, what's kind of like been the big storylines or headlines with Alabama so far?
I mean, it all starts with that quarterback position as Alabama tries to replace Bryce Young. You can't really get past that. I think Alabama's in a relatively good spot. You have to be happy with the performance from Jalen Milroe and Ty Simpson. They had a better first scrimmage maybe than their second scrimmage, but I think overall both quarterbacks have been pretty solid. I think if you ask those in the program, there's still a lot of growth needed, but I think that there's confidence that the winner of that battle will be capable of leading the team to possible title contention. I don't think Alabama's quarterback position is going to prevent it from winning titles. How about that? And so I think there's some optimism there. I think overall as the team's going, I think the offensive line's doing pretty well. The defense has a chance to be pretty good. So there's a lot of uncertainties on this Alabama team, but so far I would say so good.
Yeah, watching Nick Saban's press conferences after each scrimmage. The first one, I know he told offense was consistent, quarterbacks played equally well, and I know after the second one, he mentioned that there was probably some throws or some plays they would wish to have back. When you hear that, what are you kind of thinking that Nick Saban's telling us?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, it would almost be concerning if Alabama went two scrimmages with two first year, really first year quarterbacks, first season with the first team defense quarterbacks, and didn't get a interception or a turnover. So the fact that they didn't get a turnover in the first game is that was encouraging. It would have been kind of almost concerning if the defense couldn't force a few turnovers that second scrimmage. So it shouldn't come as a surprise. They're young quarterbacks. They are going to make mistakes. They also made good plays in the scrimmage as well. So between those two things, I think Nick Saban, if you look at his reaction, he was pretty positive. Or I don't know if he's ever really pleased with any part of his team during the spring. And I think
No.
he'll tell you that. But at the same time, I think he's not upset either. I don't think he's concerned with the way his quarterbacks are going. I don't think Alabama is going to panic or has to reach out for a transfer quarterback or any of those nightmare scenarios. I think it's pretty confident. I don't think it has a winner yet, but I think it's pretty confident with his quarterback position.
Yeah, it's always funny when thing, and Nick Saban mentioned it in one of those press conferences. Is when you look at these scrimmages or even a spring game, one side's going to be happy, one side's not. It's like, okay, yay, the offense did well, but what was wrong with the defense? So it's kind of one of them things, especially on his standpoint, looking at both sides. I know that's one thing he talked about with the defense was creating turnovers. He didn't do that in the first scrimmage, and then the second he did. So you could be, it's like you don't win really either way because there's going to be one side of the ball you're not going to be happy with, and the other side you will be happy with.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just got to look at it from a growth standpoint. Are they growing on both sides of the ball? And I think they probably are. And some of the young players that you would hope that are doing well seem to be doing well. Justice Haynes, the running back out of Georgia, is having a really good spring. That's an encouraging sign. Looks like the offensive line is progressing well. The defense is missing some stars, but you're seeing some of the young players step in at positions like Star and Earl Little, manning that star position. If he's able to do that, that can really help out the defense. Um, you know, uh, Caleb Downs coming in as a true freshman and working with the first team defense. I think that's encouraging as well. So, there's things that have to be shaken out, but overall, I think it's been a pretty positive spring.
Yeah, and last time me and you talked, Alabama had not yet named an offense coordinator. I believe the day after we recorded, they announced the new offense coordinator, which is kind of what happens when you do this thing. But they went with Tommy Reese. What was your reaction then when Alabama made that hire?
Yeah, I don't know if I was there's a lot of names being thrown around, and so I don't know if I was super overwhelmed by Tommy Reese, but it doesn't matter because it seems like he's been a really good hire. He's gotten a really good review since joining the team. Seems like the players really like him. That kind of injection of youth, he's not an old guy. Not too long ago, he was competing in a quarterback battle of his own. I mean, less than 10 years ago. So I think going from Bill O'Brien to him, you got that injection of youth that they can probably relate more to Tommy Reese. And then overall, I just think he's going to bring more balance. I think his system is, kind of more pro styled approach. I don't think Alabama is going to drastically change their offense, but I do think they're going to reestablish the running game a lot more. And when you look at the way that, guys like Justice Haynes is running, it makes sense to do that. So, I don't think this will be an Alabama offense necessarily led by its quarterback play, although I do feel like its quarterback play will be decent. It might be more of the Alabama, offenses that you saw before the elite quarterbacks came in. And that's not saying that either Jalen Milroe or Ty Simpson can't be elite. I just think that it's probably going to take them some time to reach that level. And they have weapons to, rely on. If this offensive line shapes up the way it's been shaping up, I think Alabama can have a formidable offense, even if it's not, making dazzling plays through the air all the time. I think you're going to get a lot better run, a lot more consistency in the running game, and that can open up some big plays in the passing game. And it might just be like more traditional Alabama, which I don't know what Alabama fans want right now, but I know there's a large contingency of the fan base that wouldn't mind that. So, yeah, I guess that's just the way you got to look at it.
Well, if you follow the Alabama fans on Twitter, you're always seeing they want the coordinator to run the ball. I mean, it goes back all the way to Lane Kiffin and then Bill O'Brien. And look, and one of Nick Saban's comments I think it was after the first scrimmage was, as long as we stay healthy at running back, that's a position that we're not really worried about.
Oh, I mean, look, you might have the best running back on the team might be Justice Haynes, the way he's running the ball. And then you return Jason McClellan, who I think a lot of people are, really high on. And Roydell Williams is a solid veteran. You have Jam Miller, who ran the hell out of the ball when he came in with the backups. He's running people over. It's kind of tough because, he was coming in against, a tired defense, and he was coming in at the end of games. But boy, is he a hard runner. And then, so that's what four backs right there that are all, top 100 backs. Really talented guys, and you're bringing in another top 100 back over the summer in Richard Young. I don't expect Richard Young really to play that much of a role this season just because of the people ahead of him on the depth chart, but he's another guy that, like, if there was an injury or if anything happened, he's right there to step up. So, I mean, yeah, sure. You give massive injuries to any position in the, on any team, and it's going to really hurt their depth. But Alabama even could probably deal with one or two injuries and still have one of the better running back units in the conference.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, that's something Alabama fans love to see, those backs getting the ball. Receivers. And I feel like last season that was a position that got a lot of criticism because they didn't have the big name game breakers that they had in the past. I think they've got talented receivers there, but it seemed like, and we talked about Bryce Young so many times we could talk, that he had to carry the team. Where are you at, and what are you thinking on these wide receivers Alabama has on this roster, and can they take that next step and maybe one or two guys become that elite threat that what they're used to seeing?
In terms of names to watch for that elite threat, the name I keep on hearing is Malik Benson. He's a JUCO transfer out of Hutchinson Community College in Kansas, and he has elite track star speed and is somebody that's coming in with a really good work ethic. And I think, we'll have to see what he does. He's made some plays during the first two scrimmages, and he's had a lot of positive reviews, during camp so far. But I think he has a chance to maybe come in and be that Jameson Williams type. And if he does that, I mean, it really opens up the offense because I'm not quite sold on Ja'Cory Brooks or Jermaine Burton being that number one guy, but man, they'd be a hell of a number two or number three guy. Mm-hmm. And if Benson can come in and be that star receiver, that first round draft pick kind of receiver that Alabama is used to having, all of a sudden Jermaine Burton and Ja'Cory Brooks is supplementary options just become a really even more deadly. And then you've got guys like Kobe Prentice and Kendrick Law who can kind of provide speed in the slot. And all of a sudden you're starting to run like 5-6 deep at receiver. They really just need that elite guy. They've got a bunch of really good guys, and they need that elite guy. And I think a lot of people are hoping that it's Malik Benson. It could be Jermaine Burton or Ja'Cory Brooks taking their game up to another level this year. But I'm just hearing a lot of good things about Malik Benson.
Yeah, and I know Alabama's used to having at one time they had 4 NFL wide receivers out there.
Yeah.
But if you just have one of those guys, the pressure it takes off the rest of your receiving group is just amazing. And then it just opens up the game for them. If a defense has to put a safety over, to help a corner on a guy, or they have to do certain things with your coverage, to lean on that side where that guy's at. If you just get one guy that's like that, that just opens up your offense completely differently.
Definitely. I mean, Alabama can do a lot of things. I think they got guys that can, you look at Malik Benson, he's played kind of the X receiver, and, Alabama's got 2 perimeter receivers in Ja'Cory Brooks and Jermaine Burton, but all 3 of those guys could move in and out of the slot position if they needed to. Or like I said, you got, Kendrick Law and Kobe Prentice, who both probably play in the slot as well. The versatility is there. They just need, once that field starts opening up, you get those guys with the ball, say the field opens up for a guy like, Kobe Prentice in open space, that guy can fly, you're thinking maybe Henry Ruggs over the middle kind of speed, So yeah, it all starts with kind of drawing that attention and opening up the defense. And if Alabama can do that, I think they're in good shape. And look, the running game is going to help do that too. Play actions are going to mean a lot more if you're getting an established running game, and it looks like Alabama can do that. So yeah,
it's just make things easier for whoever's going to be that guy at quarterback when we do get to the season. On the defense side of the ball, Kevin Steele, new defense coordinator, familiar face not only to Alabama but to their arch rival on the Plains too as well. He's used to coaching in this state, but we'll just say that with Kevin Steele. Obviously, when you look at, if you just look at the names who aren't there, Will Anderson, obviously the big one, and then you got DJ Dale, Brian Young on the defense line, Henry Toto, another linebacker. But who are some players? Obviously, Dallas Turner is a guy that is back, which is huge. Oh, what are the big question marks? Who are the big names to look out for with this defense now, with those guys not there?
As far as question marks, yeah, you are losing some stars. You're losing 4 out of your 5, I guess what you would call preferred starting 5 in the nickel package. I kind of, you can count Terrion Arnold as a starter, but Eli Ricks was starting over him at late in the season. So, you still lose a starter, even though you had a starter coming back. So you've got talent in the secondary. You got a lot of versatility in the secondary, but you still got guys that got to prove themselves. Like you might have a true freshman in Caleb Downs starting. So that's, I guess, a question mark. But I mean, like the talent is there. I mean, Terrion Arnold, very talented player, looked good in spurts, had his times where he was beat. But then you've also got, Kool-Aid McKinstry is pretty solid, probably be an NFL draft pick next year. On the other side, you've got guys like Malachi Moore, who's been with the first team defense for, it seems like, forever now. So, I mean, like you've got guys in that secondary that can really make it work. I already talked about Earl Little Jr. They are going to miss Will Anderson. I think he's the best defensive player they've had in the Nick Saban era. But, I mean, you really can't feel sorry for Alabama when it comes to pass rush. They got Dallas Turner. They got Chris Braswell. They've got, Keon Keeley that they're bringing in. They're bringing in Yanzi Pierre. They've got Jeremiah Alexander. I mean, like, what is that? I just rattled off 5 stars right there. That's absolutely insane. And then you've got like Quindarius Robinson is another really like super high 4-star. So, I mean, like every single person in that unit is absolutely insane. So they shouldn't have a problem getting to the quarterback even without Will Anderson.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's out there thinking Alabama's all of a sudden not going to be able to rush the passer. When you got talent at that level, that's not going to be too big an issue. So going into 8A, we know, obviously nobody does, but Alabama's not going to show a lot. I don't think they want you to figure. Obviously, Nick Saban's not going to want anybody to know what the offense really is going to be about coming into this. But what are you expecting to see out of Alabama on 8A on Saturday?
I don't really know. I mean, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of variables that could happen. Like I said, I don't think we're going to see a ton of, I don't think we're going to see a ton of new wrinkles, or we're not going to. It's really hard to evaluate what Tommy Reese is going to be like out of an 8A because, like you said, they don't want to give it away. I'd expect to see a little bit more of an established running game. Kind of sounds like we've had that throughout the scrimmages, so that would make sense. I expect the quarterbacks to be solid, but probably expect each one of them to make a few mistakes like they did in the second scrimmage. I mean, look, Alabama's defense is going to be really solid, and these are still young quarterbacks, and 8A is going to be a lot of pressure, and every single throw they make is going to be scrutinized, and they know that. And it's a really heated battle because it's close. They're both really good quarterbacks. So see how they handle the pressure. I wouldn't be surprised if each one of them makes a mistake. It's just kind of natural as having a young quarterback. But I'm definitely excited to see it. I've been hearing all this stuff, but access at Alabama is so limited that it's nice to finally see it with my own eyes. I'll get to see that this Saturday.
Yeah, I know not some people that are more preference to actual linear TV won't get to see it because, of course, they had to put Colorado on ESPN this week, and Alabama will be streaming theirs. So that will be fun. Sorry, had to get a little shot in there on Colorado. Oh, before we go, talking about spring football, and I'm kind of asking this to everybody I'm having on with spring football going on, and that is this. Of course, I know you heard the comments about what Hugh Freeze made about a different format. I know Nick Saban was asked about it. He didn't really give an answer. Let's be fair. Nick Saban didn't. He kind of is the only coach in the state that has it. What are your thoughts on that? On the format we have now with spring football, where everybody, you play each other, or would you be in favor, or like a scrimmage type with another team that like Hugh Freeze and some other coaches in the state have presented?
From an entertainment standpoint, I think it'd be more entertaining to see Alabama play a different team. From a developmental standpoint, I think it's stupid. I think it's giving less people a chance to practice. Part of the reason why you scrimmage against your own team is that everyone gets more reps. Alabama will get half the reps if they go against, I don't know, like UAB. There's only so many people that can be on the field. I think if you're able to practice against yourself, then you're getting reps on both sides of the ball all the time. So I don't think it really necessarily makes a lot of sense, but sometimes things make more dollars than sense, if you know what I mean. And I wouldn't be surprised if that plays a role down in the future of maybe, what if ESPN decides it can make a whole lot more money showing, Alabama versus UAB than it can showing Alabama versus itself. I think there's also problems that kind of coincide with doing that. I mean, like, who's going to control the scrimmage? I mean, like Alabama, like Nick Saban likes to be able to control, he's kind of the commissioner of 8A, he's not going to necessarily be able to do that if UAB is there, so there's complications. I mean, I wouldn't rule it out, but it's, I don't think it's necessarily directly on the horizon, but it's something I wouldn't rule out just because I think it would be entertaining. I think people would want to watch it.
Yeah, I'm with you, and it is kind of thing. If you look at it from a fan standpoint, just seeing two teams scrimmage, even though it'd be a scrimmage, that'd be entertaining. But I also know I'll see some comments from Troy coach John Summerall talked about. You kind of worry though. Would you be more invested in trying to beat the other team or develop your own players if you were to play a game against somebody? And that makes a lot of sense too.
Yeah, and I mean, like it might actually end up. Here's another thing too. If you want to talk about money, I mean, talk about a Troy with the Power 5 conferences starting to play less and less smaller teams, and conferences getting bigger. It might be an opportunity for if Alabama was to pay Troy to come to, or Auburn or whatever is going to pay Troy, that might be the chance to get income where maybe eventually down the road they won't be able to get that income. During the season. So maybe that plays a factor later on as well.
Yeah, that's something that popped in my head too. Like it's really more beneficial for the smaller school than it would be for Alabama or Auburn.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the case.
Well, I think if that's something that happens, we are years down the road when all the right people have to get in all the right rooms and kind of figure that out if they were to do it. And but it's going to be interesting this Saturday, 8A. I will be watching on ESPN Plus, not ESPN because Colorado has that space this year. But anyways, Tony, if people wanted to follow you and listeners, the viewers want to follow you and all the work you're doing, where can they check you out?
Yeah, the site's tideillustrated.com, or you can actually go to alabama.rivals.com. They'll both take you to the same place. You can follow us at Tide Illustrated on Twitter, or you can follow me at Tony_Tsoukalas on Twitter as well. And I see my name spelled out there on the screen, so I know it's a doozy. But so Tony at Tony_Tsoukalas on Twitter.
Hey Tony, I got you covered. I got you covered. I'm helping everybody out. So, but as always, I appreciate you coming on the show, and I look forward to talking to you sometime down the road.
Yeah, man, anytime.